Attention! This video involves King Shakalaka. Hello, my fellow hunters, and welcome today, where we're gonna have a little bit of a talk, as opposed to the other videos where we just sit here in silence together for 10 minutes. Wouldn't that be peaceful? Okay, that's enough of that. A while ago, I had a little bit of a musing on when or if we may get a siege fight, a siege hunt in Wilds. They're quite momentous. You tend to get at least one big one per generation. We had them in World and Iceborne, in your Kulve and your Safi, and that's all good, and it would be a real shame if Wilds didn't have that happen. Whether remastering an old big boy like Lao or Shen, or an entirely new one. Now, we're not going to retread that ground today, but it did kind of make me think of something connected, because we talked about the Diva and the probably silly theories connected with her, and the eyeballs, and white fatalis, and oh, what if she opens her eyes and brings down black dragons, and all of that shenanigans, right? But while that isn't the focus today, the Diva does play a large focus, as does, as promised, King Shakalaka! So, as you may know or not know, Monster Hunter Wilds has a weird amount of connections to Monster Hunter DOS, arguably the least well-known and successful Monster Hunter entry, which is a shame because it was an exemplary one. That was the first game to properly feature a diva, or songstress, and she had many songs to sing. And that being resurrected in the Grand Hub in this new diva is certainly a moment. A moment that continues when we look at the legendary artisan, the Smith, with Gemma, and his Monster Hunter DOSness, and his involvement in Lao Shenlong in that game. And whether this all just stops there as little cute nods, but, you know, it's nothing to look further into or not, is kind of, to me, a big question. Because it occurred after that last talk that actually, in DOS, the Diva was involved in genuinely unlocking meaningful stuff. We're talking like maps and monsters. So when thinking about what might happen in future title updates, what might actually get added and how it might get added, well, it kinda occurred to me that there is precedent for what is being sort of set up in Wilds. If the Diva, if the Smith, if they do actually have story moments and they're not just walking references for very old fans, well then we might actually be in for a real treat. So starting with the Diva back in Monster Hunter DOS, well, you could unlock an entire map, a classic map, the Forest and Hills. That very first map in Monster Hunter 1 you walk out into and kill and carve your first Aptonoth. That is much more endgame in DOS. You have to get, I believe it was HR 31, and then how's this for specificness in a world where you couldn't just look it up and have it handed it to you? You have to go out and kill a King Shakalaka, there he is, and specifically the king, not just a regular one, and there was no quest for him, you just had to get him as a rare spawn on other similar quests. Once you killed him, he had a rare chance to drop a particular item, the Song of Origins, at 8%. Once you got this item from the high-rank King Shakalaka, you could return with it. And once you did, you could go to the Diva in Dundorma and, well, give the music over. This would immediately unlock the Forest and Hills, which, again, a whole map and the monsters associated, and then you would get a performance you might recognize. the song that Diva and Wild sings for the Blossom Dance Festival that we have now long since passed. And that is the Song of Beginning. So that's quite a lovely, again, little callback. You can very much see that it is one-to-one if you look at this lovely comparison by Chrono Panoi. And then now you have access to that map, you have access to Rathalos, for example. At least I believe. I think Silver might be involved too. It's obviously been a long while, and I don't want my memory to confuddle anyone, but the point is thus. Finding this random bit of sheet music from a King Shakalaka unlocks maps and monsters, which is kind of ludicrous when you think about it, isn't it? So that's kind of a moment of, so is Diva going to unlock things in Wild? That would kind of be the ultimate callback, and while I don't think they're going to add a secret item that we can go out and find and hand to someone and then Diva will sing a song and the entire of the map opens up, I think it does lay the foundation for a callback to be, as I kind of alluded to in the CG fight talk, that surely Diva at some point is going to be story relevant. She's too big of a thing to just be background musical flavor for a hub. I am so convinced she will be part of something. She'll open her eyes and it will be a big deal. It might even be the final title update with the final big threat, you know, the Fatalis of Wilds that actually gets the Grand Hub stirred and called to action. But that's when you then go over to our little Smith, and him being involved in DOS with Lao Shanglong, again a big CG fight, his Elder Dragon connections. What if he is there placed so we do eventually get a Elder Dragon siege fight, and he's going to be like, well, I've got some helpful advice here, along with the Diva having a connection, a song something or something. That, to me, is a really nice little melding of past and present, and I would really like to see that happen. And hey, as an extra little fun fact, you know, one of the greatest themes in all of Monster Hunter? Supposedly, that is also sung by the songstress, i.e. the Diva, which I think is really fun to know as well. So, you know, more ties to big Elder Dragon boys. In any case, I think that the Monster Hunter DOS connections surely should be more than just flavor, because they're not even really, like, stressed or highlighted, are they? I feel like the seeds have been laid, and we're just waiting for them to bloom and sprout into something really interesting, and it's something I really want to see. I really love when the title updates aren't just, hey, talk to this random NPC, they give you a couple lines of dialogue, and oh, boom, a new monster is in the area, go kill it. I love the more story-focused ones, like we got with Elatrion and Fatalis and Safi, and honestly, World and Iceborne was great for it. Some actual proper cutscenage and introduction into why this is happening, even a crisis in terms of Fatalis, something big and imposing, either waking or emerging or coming to the Forbidden Lands, threatening the local tribes or even the Grand Hub and such, and it being this more call to arms. I totally want like a council with like a representation from each of the main tribes around the map, especially because that means we can have a Woodward in part of the battle plans, which I think is only fitting. And then actually getting the legendary Smith walk up or the Diva open her eyes, you can just imagine the shot. It would lend some real gravitas and import to it. The only real counter here is that the song's been used for Blossom Dance, and obviously nothing happened. I mean, it could represent the new unlocks in Blossom Dance, but it also maybe means that every festival is going to get a new Diva song, and will the next one also be a Monster Hunter DOS reference? That would be really neat. In fact, I'd say almost 100% that's going to happen. So there's certainly something, at least in my mind, being built up to, and I feel like the most logical thing is a Elder Dragon-based siege hunt that ties these characters together and harkens back to their origins and what they actually did for the games to begin with. And in the director's letter we got since I made this, and that should tell you when I made this, we have this. This new system will be added where rewards and equipment that allow you to diversify your skill builds can be earned. Now that could be anything as simple as like augmenting in a world, or all the way as complex as like the safi'jiiva system or curious crafting and that kind of thing. But I did think this was rather weirdly apt towards maybe like siege fights and this whole topic, because a siege is the perfect chance to add in a new layer of endgame system, because tying it to such a big deal monster a la Kulve, a la Safi does naturally lend itself there. So it's just a little bit of food for thought. And I realize we've kind of looped circle to talking about siege fights again, but look, I really want it to happen, and maybe if I talk about it enough, I will manifest it into existence, and I think that's something that everyone would be appreciative of, so, you know. Or, you know, we just get giant King Shakalaka. Maybe it was staring us in the face this entire time. The earth quakes as his footsteps rain down above the mountains. I do kind of miss quirky monsters like that. Even though it was a bit silly and humanoid and awkward to fight, it's none like anything you really get. Honestly, Leshen was the most similar thing we've had, and I really like that too, though I know a lot of people kind of didn't, but hey, that's something else entirely. In any case, the DOS references in Wilds are associated with unlocking big new things, maps, monsters connected to elder dragons and siege hunts, and I'm just really hoping that is going to keep being a thing, or a setup or a seed for something similar happening in Wilds. Even if it is just a remastered Lao Shanglong, that would still be really, really badass. In any case, let me know what you guys think, what you'd like to see, what you think's going to happen, or if this is all just looking a little bit too deeply into what's just a harmless reference and some fun characters to bring back. For now then, like if you enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more, consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below, and until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.